On Sunday, we saw the Philadelphia Eagles crush the Dallas Cowboys 41-7. In the process, the Birds clinched their second NFC East title in 3 years. I thought Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee were really good in this game, both combining for 4 total touchdowns on the day. Vic Fangio's defense responded following last week's bad performance against Washington. They forced 4 turnovers, and Saquon Barkley became the 9th player ever to surpass 2,000 rushing yards in a single season. And the Eagles did this in front of a packed house at Lincoln Financial Field in the Kelly green uniforms. And anytime the Birds are looking fresh, playing well, and they beat the brakes off the Dallas Cowboys, it's a beautiful sight. So if you enjoyed seeing the beatdown of the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday by Philadelphia, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, and with that, let's get into this Victory Monday show. And this is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Senior here with you. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend and your weeks are off to a great start as we're about to flip the page to 2025. Yesterday, still in 2024, Philadelphia picking up their 13th win of the season. The Eagles moving to 13-3 on the year, 7-1 in the NFC East, and Philadelphia is officially locked up the number 2 seed in the NFC. Here's an updated look at the NFC playoff picture, and we have some changes here. The Minnesota Vikings moving into that number 1 position over the Detroit Lions. They're 14-2 because they played yesterday. Detroit is going to play on Monday night, against the San Francisco 49ers. And so there's an opportunity for Detroit to move to 14-2 as well. Regardless, the number 1 seed in the NFC and home field advantage will be decided in a winner-take-all Week 18 game between Minnesota and Detroit. It's going to be the best game in the regular season finale between 2 really good teams in this conference, and I expect it to be a back-and-forth game, which comes down to the wire because I believe, like Philadelphia, Minnesota and Detroit, both Super Bowl contenders. So as of right now, going into Monday Night Football, you have Minnesota there at 14-2. Philadelphia locking down that number 2 seed at 13-3. Los Angeles Rams clinched the NFC West over the weekend. 10-6, they beat the Arizona Cardinals. Got some help as well with the Vikings beating the Packers. And so Los Angeles going to take that division crown. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers moving into first place in the NFC South with a win as Baker Mayfield was on fire against Carolina, and the Falcons lost on Sunday night against the Washington Commanders. The aforementioned Lions dropping back to number 5. That could change by the end of Monday night. And then the Commanders moving from 7-6 with another win against Atlanta. 11-5. They've clinched their first playoff spot since, I believe, 2020. And then the Green Bay Packers losing on the road to Minnesota, moving to the number 7 seed. And so there's now a realistic chance that in the first round, the wild card round at Lincoln Financial Field, Philadelphia will host Green Bay in a rematch of that Week 1 game in Brazil. And I got to be honest, that's a really tough draw for the Eagles in a 2-7 matchup because Green Bay's very inconsistent. They've lost a lot against quality teams this year, but when they are humming, they are really dangerous. Moving forward with this Eagles-Cowboys game on Sunday, just some takeaways from this victory for the Birds. Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee played awesome. Kenny Pickett threw for a touchdown on that beautiful throw to Devontae Smith. The Pickett push, he was able to run for a touchdown. Then Tanner McKee comes in, and he throws 5 passes, 2 of which were touchdowns. A gorgeous back shoulder ball to A.J. Brown, and I've been talking about the touch and anticipation that McKee throws with going back to last preseason. He has it. He's a legitimate backup fringe starter in this league, I believe. And then he threw another touchdown to Smitty, who had a big, big day, really able to respond after what happened with that drop against Washington. And the Eagles' backup quarterback history, it is amazing. How many awful backup quarterback performances have we seen for so many other franchises? A majority of them across the NFL over time. Teams can never get the backup quarterback spot right. Philadelphia always invests in it. And you think back to Coy Detmer, A.J. Feely, Jeff Garcia, Michael Vick, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts originally was a backup. Like, the Eagles' backup quarterback history as an organization, it's incredible, and it's because they put resources into that position because they know it's really important. And so many instances over the years where backup quarterbacks have won huge games for the Eagles late in the year. Yesterday, it's Pickett and McKee clinching the NFC East. Saquon Barkley, what a legendary season. The 9th player in the history of the NFL to run for more than 2,000 yards in a single season. And we'll talk about Saquon Barkley. Do you play him? Do you sit him against the New York Giants in Week 18 coming up in the back half of the show? This Eagles defense, I love the response after giving up 36 points to Washington. And in 8 quarters of play against Dallas this year, this Philadelphia defense has generated 9 turnovers, and they've been a very opportunistic unit on the defensive side of the ball this year. That's why they're the number 1 defense in the NFL partially. And then this is a credit to Nick Sirianni, the culture that he's built, the resolve that this football team has, the mental toughness that they display. They responded against a hot team. You could say the Cowboys stink, but look, they had won 4 of 5 games, and it would have been 5 in a row if they didn't mess up a blocked punt that they couldn't recover, and then that allowed Cincinnati to win that game. Mike McCarthy's done a hell of a job coaching this Cowboys team a few weeks after that Dak Prescott injury, and a lot of people thought that maybe the Eagles were going to be on upset alert. Instead, Philadelphia responds against a quality opponent, and they do it in convincing fashion. And imagine, if the Eagles had lost this game, the pressure would have been ratcheted up. There would have been questions locally and nationally. 1 week to play. Are the Eagles growing cold going into the playoffs? You always want to be hot at the right time. Instead, by punking Dallas, you flush a bad loss against the Commanders. You put it in the rear view. You annihilate a division rival, and then you get the confidence back, the swagger back, and the vibes are back going into the big dance. And this is the Victory Monday mood right here. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he's been with the Eagles 2 years. 2022, went to Detroit last year. 2024, back with Philadelphia. That's his 2nd NFC East title. Putting on that hat, a big smile. He knows that the job is not finished, and Jalen Hurts actually tweeted this out on his Twitter account because that is mood, as the young kids would say, after pummeling Dallas. Speaking of that NFC East champs gear, you can get it right now thanks to our friends at Fanatics. All you have to do, plug in that link down below so that Fanatics knows that Eagles now sent you. It's chatsports.com/NFC East Champs PHI. That's chatsports.com/NFC East Champs PHI. I'll attach that link to the pinned comment of today's Eagles Now. I'll put it down in the show notes. You can get that hat. You can get this shirt, sweatshirts, a lot available. It's also on the community tab of the YouTube channel. And as you venture down there to check out that link, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so right now. We're 581 people away from 97,000 subscribers. I really want to accomplish that this year. So if you want daily and year-round coverage of the EAGLES, lock us down and hit that sub button. And I mentioned earlier, some of the points that I ran through and takeaways from that Eagles victory over the Cowboys. And you have to talk about the backup quarterback play. A 2nd stringer and a 3rd stringer carving up a Cowboys defense that in the last 5 games had generated 12 total turnovers. They were playing really well as a defensive unit. And after an uneven up-and-down performance against Washington in a relief effort, Pickett gets the start. He gets some shots in his ribs. He was on the injury report all week. He goes 10 of 15, a $143, and a touchdown. A beautiful touchdown strike to Devontae Smith, pocket collapsing around him, good pocket feel, pocket mobility, steps up, arcs a beautiful ball right in stride to Smitty toward the sideline. And then I thought an even better throw was the one that didn't go for a touchdown after a review. It was the 49-yard dime that he threw to Devontae Smith, in which Smitty took the top off of the defense. And Smitty, what a day, going over 100 yards with 2 touchdowns, nearly 3. And so for Pickett to play that well as a diehard Eagles fan growing up, a lot of family members in attendance in the state where he went to college at Pitt, grew up in New Jersey, clinching the NFC East. That's a cool story. And then look, I continue to be so impressed with Tanner McKee. 2 touchdowns on the day. His first career touchdown to A.J. Brown where we have seen in the preseason this year and last year, toward the boundary specifically, he throws with such great touch, timing, and anticipation. And in today's NFL, where a lot of reads for the quarterbacks are predetermined, we have seen it's a little bit of a lost art to be able to throw that back shoulder ball, because you really have to time that throw up, because you have to get rid of it well before A.J. Brown is going to get to the spot and turn around. It was a great throw. And then the quick read to Devontae Smith on the in-breaking route, put it right on him, great ball placement, another touchdown. As for Saquon Barkley, slow start in that first quarter, and then he busts out and runs 31 times for 167 yards. He's 101 yards away from breaking the all-time record held by Eric Dickerson. Going to talk about that, as I noted, coming up just around the corner. And it wasn't a rushing performance for Saquon where there were a lot of explosive runs of 20-plus yards. In fact, I think he only had one, and that was when he surpassed 2,000 yards. But throughout the course of the game, and this has been a theme for this Eagles team all year, I've been talking about it well before anybody started to take notice, they wear opponents down throughout the 60-minute ball game, and that's because this Eagles offensive line, one of, if not the best in the NFL. Another key element of this win, now the Eagles, they can't get the number one seed and that first round bye in the wild card round. They're going to play as the 2 seed in the wild card round, but they get a bye week pretty much because they can rest their starters in Week 18. So it's a week to rest, recover, and recharge, and you don't need to rush Jalen Hurts back from him suffering that concussion. Gives him more time to clear concussion protocol. And speaking of this subject matter, coming up next, the big debate. Should the Philadelphia Eagles play Quan, or should they sit Saquon? Stay tuned for that conversation. I have a lot of thoughts, and I'm sure you do as well, so you can let me know what you're thinking about that down in the comment section. But first, today's show, made possible thanks to our friends at ZBiotics. Kick the new year off right, or end 2024 strong with ZBiotics, and you can get 15% off by using that link down below, zbiotics.com/chatsports, or you can scan this QR code with your phone right now. So as you know, if you don't know, now you know, I'm really into fitness, working out 7 days a week, long running streak of today marking 614 days. Have you ever skipped a workout because of drinks the night before? I used to. No longer for me. And covering the NFL, Chip and I, we have busy lives these days. I know a lot of you do as well. We can't afford to waste a day stuck on the couch because of a few drinks the night before. ZBiotics pre-alcohol, though, is the answer we've all been waiting for. Let's face it, after a night out with drinks, we don't always bounce back the next day like we used to. That is until we found ZBiotics pre-alcohol. Chase, what is it? I got you. Pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol. Drink responsibly and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. From Thanksgiving feasts to New Year's Eve celebrations, this holiday season packed with events, but don't let the festivities leave you feeling less than merry. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic can help you savor the night and seize the next day. Stay in the loop. Go to zbiotics.com/chatsports. Scan that QR code on the screen. We'll put that link dangling down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment. You can also sign up for a subscription, and it's backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. ZBiotics, check them out today, the proud sponsor of today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we move forward on today's show, and this is really the big debate among Eagles fans, and let's get into it. Going into Week 18, should the Eagles sit or play Saquon Barkley? After rushing for 167 yards against the Cowboys, he's 101 rushing yards away from breaking Eric Dickerson's all-time rushing record. And this is what people are missing about this accomplishment. There are a lot of folks who are trying to discount Saquon setting the record by saying, it shouldn't count, asterisk, he's doing it in 17 games. Stop focusing on games played. The important stat is carries and attempts, because Saquon has an opportunity to set this record with fewer carries. That is what matters. Saquon right now, 345 carries on the year, 2,005 rushing yards. Eric Dickerson, back in the 1980s, 379 carries for 2,105 rushing yards. So if Saquon breaks the record with fewer carries, games played doesn't matter. But the big question we want to revisit, should Saquon play? My ruling on this, records are cool. This would be an incredible achievement. Running for 2,000 yards and being the 9th player ever to do that is an incredible achievement. That record's been in place since 1984. Saquon doing it against the Giants would be a great story and a middle finger to that organization. But the risk of injury is too great. Saquon is too important to this team. Rest for a running back and having fresh legs is huge. And the ultimate goal for the Eagles is winning a Super Bowl, not setting a record in Week 18. And if Philadelphia has Saquon Barkley healthy, their chances of winning the Super Bowl drastically higher as compared to him getting hurt. So we revisit that question. What do you say? Should Saquon play? Type P. Should he sit? Type S. Let me know down in the comment section right now. Here's what the Eagles head coach said, and he has a decision to make this week. I'll handle that as we go. I'm not thinking about that quite yet. I will get there probably later tonight when everybody is still celebrating. I'll be thinking about that and what we need to do. Our goals are bigger. It's a true big-time accomplishment to win the NFC East of all the great teams that have won the NFC East in the past. So that was special, but our goals are bigger than just to win that. We want to win our first playoff game, win our second playoff game, win our third, all the way to the end. So we'll take that one game at a time. I'll do what I think is necessary and best for the team to put ourselves in that position, but I also am very sensitive to records and all the things there. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know yet. We'll always do what's best for these guys, and that could mean playing them. That could mean resting them. It could be either one. I've got to think about that. That is a player's coach thinking about his players. And what I think Saquon and Nick Sirianni are going to do, they're going to have a conversation. And Sirianni should and probably will leave it up to Saquon. Saquon, we're playing your former team in the New York Giants. It's on record. It's on film. It was on Hard Knocks. At this point, the social media clips have been circulated millions and millions of times. There's going to be an Eagles fan flying a plane over the link on Sunday saying, "Thank you, New York, for number 26. That's going to be happening. That's what we're hearing here on the streets. And Saquon has an opportunity to go down in history as having one of the best seasons of all time for any player in the NFL, and maybe the best season ever for a running back. And what I would do if I'm Sirianni, sit down with Saquon. Do you want to set this record? If you do, we will play you. We think what's best for our football team and our goals is for you to sit, not risk injury, because look at your career, Saquon. This is the first time that you've won an NFC East championship. You have never made a deep playoff run in your career. We can do that this year, but we need you. We are a run-heavy football team that runs at 55, 56% of the time, and the identity of our team is led by you. And while you can stick it to the Giants, stick up that middle finger, and you can say, see what you're missing, you let me walk because you didn't want to pay me, and you can go down in history with breaking Eric Dickerson's record, the view of this season and the goals of 2024 are a lot bigger than that. And it is pretty wild. This is the first time that Saquon's won an NFC East title. This is why I said going into this year, with this offensive line, with Jalen Hurts being mobile and the player that he is, with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, this Eagles team, how they run things, how they're coached, Jeff Stoutland as the offensive line coach, he had an opportunity to become this year's version of Christian McCaffrey. He had an opportunity to surpass 2,000 all-purpose yards. He had an opportunity to be in the MVP conversation. I was right on that, and it has been a special, legendary season for number 26. And the numbers back that up. The history backs that up. The 9th player ever in the history of the league with so many great running backs to run for 2,000-plus yards. And that's also part of the message that I'm sending to Saquon too when I'm sitting him down. Yeah, you can break Eric Dickerson's record. You can do it in fewer attempts despite playing one more game, but you've already done something so special in running for more than 2,000 yards. Christian McCaffrey won NFL Offensive Player of the Year last year with more than 2,000 all-purpose yards and 21 touchdowns. Saquon ran for more than 2,000 yards. I also thought this was an awesome moment. And the Eagles social media team, their organization, they've done a really good job of putting out some great photos. This is the Eagles offensive line holding up Saquon. As much as Saquon deserves credit for running for more than 2,000 yards, the Eagles offensive line is one of the most stout, most dominant, most physical, and best in the NFL. They helped to open up those holes to make this happen. I also loved all of the different quotes from all of the different players and a lot of the tweets on social media. Once Saquon went past 2K, Darius Slay probably had the best reaction, and he's very authentic. This tweet from Jeff Kerr. Asked Darius Slay on Saquon getting 2,000 rushing yards. Quote from Darius Slay. "Thank you, Giants. Thank you. We really appreciate y'all. On breaking Eric Dickerson's record against the Giants, that's a big FU. A big FU if he can do that on the Giants. That would be effing amazing. I live for that. Inject that energy right into my veins." Before we hop on out of here, be sure to give me a follow on X and Instagram at Chase_Senior. In addition to the long-form content here on YouTube, I cover, obviously, the birds on my social media pages. And if you support my movement, hit me up over there.